Live and then we'll go. Okay, so we're live here. Jim Holway, we're continuing our day-long series in the town halls. This is part of our Let's Take the Election to the People, because, you know, my view, I think the view of many, is elections should be about candidates meeting the people, people meeting the candidates, us talking about real issues. So I'm honored to have with me today David Garcia, who's one of our candidates for Superintendent of Public Instruction. Thanks for joining us.
I like to consider myself the candidate for Superintendent of Public Instruction.
All right, David. I love the conference. Love the conference. Well, there were a couple issues I wanted to talk about. And you may ask, what's the connection between Corporation Commission and education? And hopefully, David and I can make that clear to you and espouse what we believe is important to happen here. Let me get you mechanics. First of all, we'll talk for 10 or 15 minutes. We welcome you to send your questions. So if you're logged onto YouTube, you have a chat feature. If you chat, we're going to see it right there on the screen. We can pull them up that way. We have our very fancy made, we don't have any dark money to pay for our sign, so we're low budget here. But we have our call-in number, so feel free to 602-253-4729. And if you're able to get a call in while we're talking, David and I can try to answer any questions you want to toss at us. But there are two issues I wanted to talk about with David. One is innovation, and the other is how we educate ourselves to make sure that we have the skills and the resources it takes to make our democracy work. So in terms of innovation, it's a theme we've been using throughout the campaign. If you have a chance, check out innovatearizona.com. It's a website we've created to try to facilitate conversations on innovations in the area of energy and water and conservation efficiency. But I know David's been talking a lot about innovations in education, which clearly I think we need in Arizona. So I wanted to hear about that a bit, and the other thing I asked David that maybe he could talk about is how do we use our education system to create a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship, which I think is what our state's going to need to be competitive in the future. But David, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Well, I appreciate that, Jim. Thank you for having me on. This is a lot of fun. I see myself all over the place.
You're everywhere.
Stuff. Well, to me, education and innovation go hand in hand. I don't see how you can separate the two, because one is most of our innovations come from folks who are educated, who learn a lot about a topic. I know you know this as somebody who has done that to get your own doctorate, for example. That kind of.
David, you weren't supposed to reveal that we're the two doctorates. Okay, were you?
I didn't say that about my own doctorate, by the way, but just yours. But when folks spend time and energy giving thought and educating themselves about issues, whether that be social issues, environmental issues, sciences, that's where innovations really come from. And in education, one of the things that I firmly believe we can do in Arizona is we can have the most innovative public school system in the country. I believe that because our state has the fundamentals of what you need to be innovative. We are small, we are flexible, and we're a little fearless. And that's what you need to go out and take risks and do great things. And it is one of the reasons why I am running, because I do believe that we can do so much more with education in Arizona, so much more to get away from what has really been a focus on getting students through multiple choice standardized tests. That isn't particularly innovative. It isn't inspirational, and in my opinion, education should be more inspirational. And our focus is to create more of a culture of innovation by changing some of the outcomes we're asking our schools to get students to accomplish. Right now we have a situation where innovation, technology really, is changing what's going on in the classroom. We teach students and then have them kind of take away everything and say, regurgitate what we already know, but the reality is, if you were to ask a young person to get you an answer to something today, the very first thing they would do is pick up their phone. Right. And you and I can get an answer to any fact-based question you want to right now. So to me, the innovative education system of the future gets away from just what students know and starts to focus on what they can do. Right. And I'd like the hallmark of our graduates to be, what can you do after you graduate from Arizona High School?
How do we use all these resources out here and creatively assemble them to accomplish a task?
That's right, because the reality is, once you're out in the real world, if our goal is to get students ready for the real world, we shouldn't be taking these resources away. We should be handing them to students to use, to problem solve, to address issues creatively, And I think educators are ready for that. I think that's the exciting part about being an educator.
And historically, I think it's what we've been best at in our country and hope we don't lose it. I mean, I can remember, you may have had the same experience. You're going through graduate programs, you wind up having students from all over the world. And particularly in our technical fields, when I was teaching in the engineering programs at Arizona State University, the majority of the students are from foreign countries.
Sure.
And what they're coming here for, they don't need us to help them in math. They don't need us to help them in science. Unfortunately, at this point, they probably are better at that than we are. They're coming here because we know how to teach people to be creative and innovative in a way that a lot of other countries are not as good at.
That, particularly at the higher education level, in my opinion, is our greatest strength. I have students that come in, obviously here from the United States, but I generally have students who apply to work with me from other countries, China and Korea, notably, for example. And you're right, they're technically sound. They know English and their home language. They're here to learn creativity.
Right.
And it's something that, yes, you teach, but I think just being here in the United States, it helps foster that. I was in Spain looking at international standards. I was there studying this when Steve Jobs died. And the Spaniards have really good editorial writers. That's what they do. They do these great editorial writers. They sit around in cafes and talk about the issues of the day. And there was this series, and the series was, where's the next Steve Jobs going to come from? Where's the next big innovator going to come from? And from the numbers and just looking at population, the thought was China or India or one of those countries. But in the end, the Financial Times article read something like, look, if you had $1 and an idea, you'd still go to the United States to make it happen.
And we got to keep that happening.
And we've got to keep it happening.
And so one of my reasons for bringing this topic up is that one of my talks on the campaign trail has been that Arizona has the ability to be a leader in adoption of new technology, whether that's solar energy, energy efficiency, conservation. And by doing so, we position ourselves to have a strong economy and bring jobs here and export that technology elsewhere. And that relies on us maintaining this kind of competitive, innovative entrepreneur spirit. But David, the other topic I wanted to turn my attention to, because it's been a big theme in this campaign, and I sort of joked, actually, I was invited up to talk to the Tea Party and face it because of their concern about water issues and their dissatisfaction with the current administration. And so one of the almost humorous things I said that resonated with them, I said, look, we're getting to the point with so few people paying to our elections, with the dark money coming in, maybe we should just get rid of elections and have an auction. Every candidate will just bring their supporters in, and the highest bidder gets to have the office, and then we'll just dedicate that money to social purposes. And, you know, I'm kidding here, but the point I'm trying to make is I think we are in danger of losing something that makes our democracy work. And so I'm really curious, as someone looking to run the school systems of Arizona, what can we do to make sure that our future citizens are going to engage and are going to basically take back this democracy and make it work for the people?
Well, interestingly, I recently sat with a high school class, and we talked about what's the purpose of public education. And I gave the students 3 purposes to think about, and we talked about how education systems look different under each purpose. The 3 major purposes being economic, social, or democratic. What was the original purpose of public education in Arizona, in the United States, pardon me? And after having the conversation, we let them vote. And most students choose economic. The idea that the purpose of public education is to help individual folks go out and get a job, and I know that that's an important part of the public conversation. A few pick social, ideas of social justice and opportunity, and very few choose democratic. And the reality is our underlying purpose for public education in the United States was to have an educated citizenry for the purposes of promoting democracy.
Right.
It's the reason for public education. Why? So that at least at the time of our founding fathers, tyrants could not control, could not control the people, that the people would be educated enough to make decisions and participate. And I think in many ways, we are always continuing to strive for that here in the United States in our election process, where we have individuals who really do have the power. I understand that a lot gets centralized with the folks who are invested in it, but the amazing part about at least democracy for me is every single vote is just as much in this country as every other vote. Right. And as a result, I think students understand, the young people I talk to, really understand the notion that what they do counts, what they do matters.
Mm-hmm.
And in my opinion, continuing to promote that idea means that individuals, and it really does come down to individuals. You know, much like myself, that campaigns are small groups of people that you meet with all over the state,
Mm-hmm.
in places, in people's homes, and in restaurants, and in many places where you get a chance to meet with folks one-on-one or small groups. And it is those groups, in my opinion, that really amplify and have the power.
Sure. Well, David, thank you very much for joining us. I don't know if you have any, we've gone kind of for about that 10 you originally planned for, but I don't know if you have any concluding thoughts you want to share.
Other than on the same theme, we encourage everybody to go out and vote. Truly, your vote individually can change Arizona. And in the next week, we will have some tremendous change. I look forward to the positive changes that will come to public education, and it is down to individual folks voting that will matter and that will make a difference in our state from an education standpoint, from an environmental standpoint, and truly the future of our state lies in the hands of our voters. And I encourage everybody to go out and vote.
David, thank you for joining us. Thank you for raising these issues. And just in terms of the rest of our schedule, we have an unscheduled guest appearance, so we're going to slide in a session that's Gallego, Democratic candidate and I guess presumptive at this point winner for a seat in Congress, be our newest congressperson, to talk about what are some of the federal issues and how that relates to some of the issues that I've been talking about for the commission. And then at 3 o'clock, we will have Senator Andrea Del Sandro from Southern Arizona to talk about what are some of the issues that she sees in her district and some rural Arizona that are of importance to the commission. We will wrap up at 4 o'clock with any final questions we didn't get to, and then we'll call it a day. And so, David, thank you very much for joining us.
It's quite a lineup.
Hope you'll tune back in shortly. Thank you very much.